Do you have problems with your hearing? Well, we're taking care of it today with Bill Dickinson of TETRA right now. Welcome into Gun Talk Hunt. Today is a very important day because it has to do with maintaining your hearing for the hunt and for your family. I'm your host, KJ, and I've got a very special guest. I met him 2 years ago at SHOT Show. We met on a Thursday at SHOT Show, if I remember correctly. But what's important about that is it started changing my thoughts about hearing in the field and wearing hearing protection in the field. And I'm joined today he's with TETRA Hearing, and he's the man. This is Mr. Bill Dickinson. How you doing, brother?
Man, Kevin, it's fantastic. I can't believe it took me back all the way 2 years and life was different at that SHOT Show, right? That was before everything.
It was really different back then.
For the whole world, and certainly for my little world and Tetra's world, it was way different back then. So I'm glad you remember those days.
I do remember those days because it really, what you guys have started doing, and we're going to give some background on TETRA. Bill, I think it all starts really at where you came from, and that's the most important part of the story because you're viewing hearing a little bit differently. Tell us about the early days and your background.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The background is absolutely fundamental to what we're doing and what the mission is at TETRA. This is my 30th year as a hearing doctor. So I was born and raised to be an audiologist, I guess, and kind of fell in love with the ear and fell in love with sound. And man, it doesn't matter if you're enjoying your favorite Springsteen song or whatever your jam is and gets you going, or all those special moments, raising kids and getting married and just living life, or hanging out in the turkey wood or the duck pit, or hearing is a major component to hunting. And I've been a hunter and a shooter my entire life, and so really, TETRA is the blending of those two worlds. It's we're bringing in all the kind of geeky science that I've done for 30 years and teaching at Vanderbilt and running the hearing aid program there and being a big part of research and development team for one of the world's largest hearing aid companies, and just kind of brought all of that technical and professional background into the passion of protecting the ear. And most importantly, what we saw was so missing, and this is one of the first things that I remember that you commented on, Kevin, is that protecting the ear isn't the hard part. I mean, heck, the good Lord gave us a finger that we can stick in our ear, and that does a pretty good job, right?
That's right. That's 100% right.
But whether it's a foam earplug or whether it's just muffs, keeping the ear protected from damaging sound is not the rocket science. What's been missing in this category is quite frankly just an awesome listening experience, so that you can hear well before they need the protection. And so that's what we the vision of TETRA was to create a normal and natural and as perfect of a listening experience before the hearing protection was needed. And that doesn't mean if you 100 rounds a minute going on around you, or if it's a single shot in a turkey wood.
Right. Well, you toss around, and I can't believe you're doing it. You're tossing around a dirty word. And typically we don't this is a family friendly program, but you're tossing around the word hearing aid. And I'm going to, after talking to you and after looking, you checking my ears out, and I took a hearing test on TETRA's website, tetrahearing.com. I need hearing aids. Essentially is what that tells me, but I need hearing aids that I can wear into the woods. And I'm going to be the first person to say I have not worn hearing protection in the woods ever. And it has hurt me. The test shows that I've hurt myself in the long run. But we're going to reverse that. We're going to maintain the hearing that I have, what's left of it, with Tetra.
Well, brother, I love how you put the PG-13 friendly version on that with
Thank you.
Hearing aid. Like, nobody wants to talk about hearing aids, right? And,
They don't.
And it's funny, like, it's a 26-year-old dude, or heck, my daughters would. It's fine to put on glasses, and you can even just get plastic lenses in them because they match your outfit, right? Or they make you look smarter, or whatever. Like, somehow in society has gotten to the point where the things that we hang over our ears and on the bridge of our nose is absolutely fine, and they're a status symbol, and you can buy brand name stuff that makes you feel good about yourself.
Okay,
and
let's just say hearing aids don't make me look smart.
It's not
right,
right? And what's the stigma to it? It's the old dude from the movie Up, right?
That's right.
Great in his ear. And when we think of hearing aid, we think of old, and we think of infirm, and we think of we've been fighting this all 30 years as an audiologist. And we thought if we made hearing aids smaller, it would be better. If we made them super high tech, and if they were wireless, and if they talk to our phones, and they do, hearing aids are phenomenal technology these days, and we still sell about 20% to the market that really needs them, and that's on a good day. It's more like 14 to 16%. But here's the number one kicker with that is, what else do we tie to hearing aids? And that's a great big heavy price tag on them, right? And guys like yourself, and you are right in the zone, Kevin, of, we can talk about some of the healthcare implications. This isn't just about turning the TV up, right? This isn't just about like asking your wife or your office mates or your hunting buddies, if you're saying what and huh. It's not just about the bad jokes.
That's standard vocabulary in my household.
Well, I love you. Everyone knows the NRA salute, right?
It's the hand up to the ear. What?
The hand behind the ear, right? And that's you've been a member how long?
Yes, exactly.
And so, but dude, no one wants to join that group.
They don't.
But I am telling you, and especially right now, the last couple months that we've been, going through turkey season and with our amp pods, and that's really for, the guys that have been hard on their hearing their whole life, and they want to chase that gobbler in the woods. And if that bird didn't make that sound, 20% of the people that would chase it, right? Like we chase the gobble. In that all the magic vocalization that those animals, those birds make in the woods, and the love story that goes back and forth between the toms and the hens, and that's what gets those really going. And when you can't hear that, you can't hunt them, you can't chase them, you can't, and you lose all the enjoyment of it. And I'm telling you,
and directionally, like if you hear a gobble, but you just really don't know where it came from, and you're done. You're just sitting by a tree.
You got to hear it before you can determine what direction it is, right?
Yeah.
And geez, sitting by a tree, I can't believe we went out. We've one of the local scholastic shooting teams here in the Nashville area has jumped on board, and we went out and fit a bunch of their student shooters when they were shooting at practice just last night. We're talking to the coach, and coach is a big time duck hunter, big time turkey hunter. He's got a deer and turkey farm down in Georgia. He runs down to, and actually there's a lot of stories here, but his whole thing is like his parents are still down there, and he's like, it's during deer season and turkey season is when he gets to go down and help run the farm and do all the stuff that needs to get done, and the whole honey-do list that mom keeps for us when we go back home, right? I mean, you and I know a little bit about that. And so, it's all about like connecting with his parents and like, and seeing how things change so fast. He's gone for 2 or 3 months at a time during the summer before he gets back down there. Anyway, he was just down hunting with Dad, and they were sitting up in some hardwoods, and they're just working this early morning gobbler that was roosted up in the pines, and he just you know how just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Bird hits the ground. He gets him to go 2 or 3 times more, and then it's the dreaded silence.
Oh,
right?
No. Oh, I've been there so much.
He and Dad are sitting like 2 trees, kind of right next to each other, about 2 feet apart, looking towards the pines because that's where it should be coming from. And he goes, Bill, I'm telling you, he goes, it made the hair on my neck stand up. It's like all of a sudden directly behind us.
Oh my gosh.
He goes, for somewhere between 8 and what seemed like eternity, but at least 8, 10, 12 minutes, he said that bird just put on an auditory show of just spitting and drumming. He goes, I've never heard spitting so much.
Really?
It was just like,
yeah.
Right? And
oh yeah.
And he's going on, and he's just like, he's trying to, like, you're held hostage, you can't move. And he's trying to, like, look and see, watch Dad's face. And Dad's just, like, looking around, like, looking in the pines. He goes,
oh my gosh.
He goes, finally, he just, like, leaned over and he said, hey, you think that bird yet? And just starts talking to him, right?
The kiss of death.
He just starts talking to Clay, his son.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, no more bird, no more drumming, no more nothing.
Oh.
And he's like, Dad, didn't you hear? He's like, what? I didn't hear. What do you mean? He wasn't right back there. Like, and so Dad missed the whole thing. Well, not only did it screw up that hunt, but, like, now Dad's bummed out. Clay's bummed out. Son's bummed out.
Yeah,
and it's all because of sound, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like, it just makes me sad.
It's
just cool seeing a 50-year-old man be sad for a 76-year-old father who he goes, Bill, I guarantee you, he will never have a spitting and drumming show like we just
like
had
he just
Saturday.
had.
Yeah,
and he was witness to it, but he just didn't know it.
That's exactly.
And that's brutal, because I had this almost very similar like experience happen to me in the deer woods. I was in the deer woods. I was like sitting on the ground. I was overlooking a beautiful bottom, and it's in the morning hours, so the sun's just starting to peek over the horizon, and it had a good feel to it. It was going to be a great day, and I heard something, and I was like, wow, I just didn't know which way it came from, and then I heard it again, and it was a faint grunt. Like very faint, but I was like, well, maybe it was a grunt. And, you go through that like operation of, was it or wasn't it? Is someone calling? What is it? Like, then you start talking yourself out. Well, maybe it wasn't there. Well, I wait for a few minutes and I heard it again. And I'm like, okay, that was definitely a grunt. Like, I know there's a buck in this area. And the sun's peeking up a little bit more. And then I hear the dreaded foot stomp. The dreaded foot stomp. That deer is 7 feet from me, right on top of me. And if I would have been able to hear clearer, I would have known, okay, there's something happening behind you. You probably need to turn around. And that was so frustrating to me because I replay that over and over, and it was a nice buck. Granted, he was backlit in the sun, so of course he looked like a giant, and he was only 7 feet from me. But that was a big deer, and I completely blew it, and my hearing blew it for me. Gun Talk Hunt is also sponsored by Pyramyd Air, your #1 resource for everything handgun. Whether you want to have a backyard barbecue and teach the neighbors how to shoot, or you're heading out to the range, Pyramyd Air is for everything air guns, hunting, plinking, or just shooting around with friends. Enter code GUNTALKHUNT at checkout, all one word, for $10 off any $50 purchase, plus free shipping with any purchase of $100 and $150 or more. Find your next hunting partner at PyramydAir.com today.
But like, that's the stuff that we walk around our entire lives with good hearing that we take for granted, is that, like, you don't think about, that I can only see, my eyes can only move so far. I can see 135 degrees in front of me with my eyes. your brain is constantly using your ears to monitor 360 degrees around you, and it keeps us safe, and it keeps us connected, and it lets us hear and what we don't want to hear.
Right.
You know, like all of when we talk about like background noise, and everyone's like, "Well, I used to be able to do just fine." Why? In like, I'm going to say, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh, please do.
If you want, but like, I know your ears, right?
Okay,
like,
you're going to have
sure
to explain my ears to our listeners, because I always tell them, like, I have freakishly, like, weird ears. Like, they're odd. But, yeah, put me on the spot. I'm ready to answer any questions.
No, I mean, you're like, so like from the hearing side of things, I'm going to assume that, you know, you and your family, you and your wife sitting around, you know, in the living room, in the family room, in the kitchen, making dinner. Maybe not always a problem. Someone, you know, you got a problem. Someone's like looking, and I'll blame this on her. She's looking in the refrigerator, talking to you, right? And the TV, you know, the TV's going on in the background, and she changed topics. You don't know what, and you give her the huh or what or what'd you say or not, or respond nothing at all, and then her blood pressure spikes. Right?
Yeah, then it's my problem. Yeah.
Then you're not listening, Kevin.
Right.
Like if you would just listen.
Yeah.
But the point is, you have a little bit of high frequency hearing loss, and the point of that is you're missing out on some super important frequencies that you know the difference between words. So you have an understanding the problem, not a volume problem. The parts of your ear and your hearing that is responsible for loudness is actually working pretty good. So you can hear background noise fantastic. What you can't hear necessarily is the difference between fit and sit, right, or 50 and 60, or path and pass. And some of those may be challenging. You know, I guarantee you, you know, your listeners that just heard some of those words, they're like, well, those all sounded the same to me. And it's,
dang right. I'm sitting here like leaning into it. I'm leaning into it right now, because I was even like, oh, what did he say?
And unfortunately, that 12 gauge, that any shotgun, it's not just shotgun, but you know, the blast of, it doesn't matter if a 9mm pistol or a 270 rifle or a 20 gauge or 12 gauge, like the majority, the peak loudness, where it's doing the most damage, it's loudness that hurts, right? And it's going to pick a frequency. And most of the frequencies for those gun blasts are in the very high frequencies, mid to high frequencies that we need to understand speech. And I mean, that's always been the quagmire, the dilemma of, if you just wear regular earplugs and you have a little bit of hearing loss, now you've just kind of created a severe loss when you're in the duck pit.
Right.
And everyone's in the duck pit and they hang out, and there's a dove field, you know, fill in the blanks. It's pheasant field, doesn't matter. Like, or online. It doesn't matter if you're shooting clays, it doesn't matter if you're shooting in a pistol pit. Like, you need to hear and communicate, and plus that's how we engage and connect. That's how we live our life. Is largely through hearing. And you did it a little bit later in life, but you get it now.
Oh, I get it now, and I'm going to do a better job. I am going to wear these in the field because it is important. And let's talk about some of the products that you guys are putting out, because what I'm running right now are the shields, which, wow. The shield series, you've got to talk about how these are developed, because these are developed for the sportsman. And these are like high tech. Really everything you guys are doing, the amp series, are very high tech as well. You're just doing it a little bit different, and you included the guys from Night and Hail to help you develop these. Yeah.
Both are kind of a very different story, very different use case, but really has the common denominator of awesome listening experience and then fully protected at trigger pull. And kind of the difference is it a lot of triggers that are being pulled, or a lot of pulls of the trigger, or is it just kind of one or two shots between the amp series and the shield series? And so the partner and I, you know, best bud here in Nashville, and we were on faculty together at Vanderbilt, and man, we've got we've got more war stories that we can tell chasing ducks and deer and turkey and fish. But that's David Genemico, Dr. Genemico here in town. He's got his practice, and we were sitting about 3 years ago in a duck pit over in Missouri, not shooting a whole lot of birds and doing a bunch of calling, and we're always goofing around trying different products, in our ears, different hearing products, and which ended up to be prototypes to Tetra now.
Oh, okay.
That I was trying, and I was in the middle of switching some out, and all of a sudden a bunch of these pintails are working us all day. And of course, I swear to God, that bird was in the air and has never touched the ground. Right? I don't know what you need to do to get pintails.
He won't commit. I'm telling you, like a lot of guys, they're afraid to commit.
There you go. You got that.
Just happens.
We'll stay on the PG-13.
Yeah.
So, and so I'm in the middle. I got nothing in my ear. We're in this. It's just the two of us on a Wednesday morning in this metal pit in an 80-acre flooded rice field, and he's wailing for these pintails, and I'm like, dude, you are calling way too loud, and he's like, oh, I don't think it sounds normal, and I'm like, take those out of your ear and I go,
listen.
I've had my ears plugged. I go, just and then blow it like that. And he took his out, and he's like, God dang, that does sound loud. And I go, here, listen to it through this. And it was like some product that is goofing around, which is some of the early prototypes of what we're doing now with Tetra. And he puts it in, he's like, those sound freakishly good. and it was because it was the first time that we put this, like what we want to call now our special sauce, which is now our patented formula for, we digitize what all the waterfall calls should sound like, and then we put it through all this, geeky audiology equipment, and we do a spectral analysis on it, and it tells us in order for a hen mallard hail call to sound like that, these are the 5 primary bands of sound that you have to have represented when you do it. And so, if you go, that needs to be replicated.
Right.
And it's what we've done for 20 years with the professional musician. I mean, when we were growing up, we never saw guys on stage or gals on stage with anything in their ear.
Never.
Right. And now every single person has something in their ear. Yep. And everyone thinks like, oh, the musician is so good about protecting their hearing now. Well, it's really not about protecting their hearing. What they're doing is through that in-the-ear monitor, they get to create the exact cocktail of sounds that they want to hear. So if I'm a drummer, I get to fine tune it exactly for what I need to do to be the best performance at the drums as possible. If I'm a bass player, then it's fine tuned. I adjust it so that I hear exactly how I want to hear. If I'm a lead vocalist or a backup vocalist, and what's funny is when those dudes get their ears mixed up, and now all of a sudden the bass guy is, he plugs in and he's got the drummers, and he's like, God, this sounds like crap. It's because it was set for what the drummer needs.
Right.
And really, Kevin, what we did is we took that philosophy and we just built it into Tetra. And so it's like, okay, we're going to test your hearing. We're going to find out what parts of your ear are not working so well. We're going to compensate for any parts of where you have hearing loss. And then on top of that, and this is what everyone has gotten excited and why we first met when we were getting the award, the Guns and Ammo Award at SHOT Show. What everyone's getting excited about is we built specific algorithms, specific formulas for specific hunting and shooting pursuits. So we've got right now what's on fire for us with the scholastic shooters and all the sporting good guys or sporting clay guys it's our clay target formula.
Yeah.
We went out and we digitized all of the different trap house releases and sporting clay releases and again, just like whether it's an elk bugle or a turkey gobble or mallard call, we are enhancing the frequencies that you need to hear for that typical pursuit. What you need on a long distance shooting course, shooting 1,000 meters, is very different than what you need shooting sporting clay.
Right.
And what you need in a dove field is different than what you need in the turkey woods.
And that's that's what you guys have actually like tuned into, is you guys have found, like, I don't know what you guys have done, and you called it kind of the secret sauce, but these are tuned to hear these sounds. So it enhances that frequency, which is absolutely amazing. I've been running the Shield series, and you guys do customs and kind of more of a universal fit as well.
Yes, sir. That's, so, we spent forever just tweaking. One of the things that we were trying to get around as audiologists is this idea that in order to have a premium experience, that you had to go to a clinic and get fitted and get your ear impressions done. And then, because it's a pain in the butt, it's extra money, it's everything. So a big part of our focus was on the Alpha Shield. So it's the Shield technology that you're talking about, which are heavy trigger pull activities, and the Alpha Shield is our universal fit. And we just ran some new numbers at the end of Q1, end of March there, and we've got just over 3,200 devices in the field. And we just bumped up a little bit higher. We're now at a 96.8% fit rate on a universal fit. And man, if you wanted to bet me 3 years ago, if you wanted to bet me $1 million that there's no way that you're going to fit 9.5 out of 10 years with the same device,
that's
I would
crazy.
have taken that bet in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where we are. And to this day, it's so freaking exciting that you can do it. You could order, we could hang on the phone, you could order it. What time is it? We could probably still get it programmed for you today, if not tomorrow, and you'll have it in 2 days.
It really is amazing. I can't get over how just talking to you, because you obviously are passionate about this, and you're passionate about maintaining folks' hearing. And you've changed my mind. You've changed my outlook on when I'm wearing. And honestly, like, you've changed what I'm going to pass on to my kids, because I don't want them to have I don't want them to miss what I have missed in the woods.
And that's spot on, and that's why I think that's why you and I have first connected. I mean, you spend about 30 seconds with you, and you can kind of tell you're a hardcore dad, and it's just a big part of your life. And at the end of the day, while I do need to sell some stuff in order to make this business successful, at the end of the day, if we just change the direction, if we change the conversation, and if we change the behavior of outdoorsmen so that they are teaching the younger generations to take better care of their hearing across everything. It doesn't matter. It's when you push a lawnmower, boy. It's when the first time you
use that weed eater
passage. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Or the first time you get to hold, you're cutting wood with Grandpa, and he lets you cut that first block of wood off of that tree, right?
Yeah.
And you get to hold that McCullough chainsaw or Husqvarna or whatever, right?
Man, I can't tell you how many times. Like, I remember going out with my dad. I remember all that. Never any hearing protection.
And so the one of the best examples that I have that absolutely just it hit home so personally is, this was actually 2 months. This was June before we launched, June 19, before we launched in September 19. And my son was a rising freshman, going into sophomore. He met what is now kind of, his best buddy, his best hunting and fishing buddy, and best that play sports together. They met on the football field. Ben's a year older than my son Brendan, and the day, I mean, you know what it's like when these kids come home and they're all excited about their new friend, right? Yep. It doesn't matter if they're in second grade or junior in college. But all I've been hearing about is, he and Ben. And when they were out knocking on farm doors, they got permission to fish for bass in this farm pond.
Yeah.
They wanted to run out the Bass Pro. They wanted to catch them on fly rods. So they wanted to go get some poppers.
Oh, good call.
So Brendan's not even driving yet. I meet Ben for the first time, hops in in their truck, heads out to Bass Pro. On the way back on the interstate, they're in the middle of a 6-car pileup, right?
Right.
And it was like one of those things where, dude, you see every one of these cars and you think like, you know, please tell me everyone lived, right? Like the Durango that he was in, I'm telling you, you'd think there's no way anyone survived that. And these two boys, and thank God everyone involved, literally walked away. And they weren't hurt, and there was like just a couple cuts out of the 12 people total that were involved with this, right? Boys are absolutely fine. But my whole point of that is, if it wasn't for two things, if it wasn't for the technology of the airbag and for the behavior of those kids putting on their seatbelt, dude, my life would have been wrecked.
Yep.
If it wasn't for an airbag and for a seatbelt, my life would have been wrecked. Yeah. And it was behavioral change. I mean, I remember when I was 16, my mom and dad would ask me to please wear my seatbelt. There was no laws. There was no,
not anymore.
Right. I mean, and like that kid that, you know, he's 17 now and looking down on me, and he doesn't know what it's like to be in a vehicle unrestrained. Right. I mean, he went from, you know, infant car seat to booster seat to the big graduation days when he got to sit in front with dad and wear a real seatbelt.
Yes, that's 100% accurate. And we've got to be more diligent about changing the narrative on hearing loss and protecting. That's where it is. And it's that protection. It's just, that's what we do.
And it's your platform. It's guys like you, and you've worked your butt off to have a super successful platform. And I'll challenge. I mean, we're friends. I'll challenge. I mean, with that privilege comes responsibility. The famous quote, right?
You're right.
And you have the ability. They will listen. You've got the voice, and you've got nothing vested into it. I'm here to back you up.
Well, I'm here to preach it, because what you're doing is important. And I'm gonna call out all the listeners and all the viewers. If you think hearing protection is not worth it, you go out and you spend all this money on this gun, but you don't buy something that's going to protect you down the road. And just a heads up, the kids that you have now, think about this. They're going to have kids, right? What's the first frequency to go? The higher frequencies. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And what is that typically? Children's voices. And when you told me that, like, that's from our guest today, Bill. He told me that, and that kind of shook me a little bit, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you mean I won't be able to hear what my grandchildren will say? And that kind of shook me. So if that doesn't get you to start like being more serious about this, like, it's going to be a rough time.
And it's everything. Like, and unfortunately, like, you know, right now, if someone's listening to you and either knows someone who is struggling with hearing, or they themselves are struggling with hearing, they know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And the problem is getting hearing is just one of those things we take it for granted until it's gone. And I can't tell you, in all my years in clinic, how many times I sat in a room with a successful, 60, 58, 62-year-old businessman, and some of them are some of the most gracious, very, very humble, most humble men I've met. Right. In my experience, it's been the male that has done this. I'm sure there's equal stories with females, but it's that big, tough, strong, I can buy, and they'll make it. They're like, Bill, the first time I heard it, this guy said, don't take it the wrong way. Don't take this the wrong way. I can go anywhere in the world, do anything I want to do, buy anything I want. And the number one thing I would do is buy new ears. And his ears were an absolute train wreck. Absolute train wreck. He said, if you told me to go to Russia or Dubai or India or California, and I could get new ears, he goes, the price couldn't be high enough. I would pay anything for it. And I've heard that many, many times. And often So many times, what really kind of drove David and I, a lot of times it was that duck hunter, sitting here in Tennessee in the middle of, kind of southern duck hunting up and down the Mississippi. And you get that 56-year-old who is just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And they think like, okay, like, I'll just give me top of the line. I don't care how much I don't care what it costs. This has to go away. Like, I can't, my ears are ringing. I can't listen to anything. I'm in meetings. I can't, life's just sideways. And as cool as the technology is, it's nowhere near as good as what the original engineer made for us. Right?
Right.
It's just,
that's right.
You can't get it back to normal.
Yeah.
The rest of medicine, you got a bad heart or bad lung or bad livers or bad kidneys, you fill in the blank. Like, they can take a cadaver. They can take a transplant. Somebody
right.
who, 10 hours ago was using that heart, and they can change your life by putting it in your ear. Like, we can't do that with the inner ear. And I hope I'm wrong, but we probably will never be able to do that with the inner ear.
I haven't
please
heard about
let me
it.
be wrong.
Yeah. Someone fix that. But in the meantime, TETRAHearing.com. You, man, go check them out. They've got a lot of interesting facts. I'm reading some of them, and it is shocking. Guys, anybody with mild hearing loss is 2 times more likely to develop dementia. I mean, start thinking about that. Like, I mean, start taking it serious, guys. But Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to definitely have you back on again to talk about this, because it is important. It's important to our audience because we're all shooters. We're all hunters. We all enjoy hearing those birds, hearing the sounds of nature. But save it now, man. Save what you got, and just be voracious about this. Like, you've got to glom hold of what you got.
Well, it's awesome to hear the young guys like yourself, Kevin, doing it, and that's getting in hero status in my book. So thank you for being a huge supporter. And this is, I mean, you've been great to Tetra, but more importantly, you've been great to the category, and it's about awareness and education. And man, I will carry those bags for you anytime you let me. And,
same here. Same here.
Okay.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get you back on. But everybody, if you're listening to this, if you hear us, which I know you do, be diligent about the protection of your ear hearing, and have a good time, have a good hunt, and always keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction. Thanks for joining Gun Talk Hunt.